Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm recording today from the mountain, from the cabana. It's a beautiful sunny day. It's been lovely, warm and sunny all week. Some might say it's unseasonably warm for mid-January, but there we go. That's just what's going on. So I just plan to make the most of it and enjoy it. So I've come up here and I'm actually going to spend about a week here because Anthony is currently painting and rewiring the electrics in the village house, which means that the dogs can't really be there. So I'm up here, and which should just be normal because this is where I live, but it feels really different. And the reason it feels really different is because I've rehomed the chickens. They're no longer here. They've actually gone to Simon's house, Simon and Ella, our friends. Simon appeared in the 6th month update that I did around Christmas. So yeah, they've gone to a good home. They've been merged with their existing flock. So I know they'll be absolutely fine. It's just that I miss them. I know they're not the same as dogs and cats, but they've got such great personalities and they give you eggs every day and they're just so funny. If you've ever seen a chicken running, you'll know what I mean. So yeah, I miss them and I feel sad that they're not here. It's very quiet. They're normally squawking really loudly by now. But yeah, it's also represents a real positive move because it's the first step in moving off the mountain and to our new property in Galicia, which we're really, really excited about. This cabana is now on the market and I need to basically clear it of all my belongings and make it into a show home. That's what we've been busy doing for the past few weeks, just running around trying to sort out all of the logistics of this. But yeah, I can't help but feel a little bit emotional sitting here and knowing that I won't necessarily be coming up here much anymore. Once the cats are off the mountain, I don't really have a reason to come except to do property viewings. So yeah, it's made me very reflective on the whole of the past 4 years that I've spent living here on a mountain off grid, which really wasn't part of my life plan. This is why it's still kind of mind-blowing to me that I did this, because I just had no idea that my life was going to go in this direction, which is an awesome direction to go in, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't want to be living any other type of life. I want an alternative life. I want an off-grid life and I want to live in nature. But I wouldn't have done. The reason that I suddenly veered off in this direction was that I suddenly became ill with multiple sclerosis back in 2016, which is, it's coming up to 8 years since I first got sick. So best part of a decade swallowed by an illness, and I've been struggling to break the surface ever since. And so this sort of feeling reflective, it's making me think, you know, what were my reasons for coming here? What was I hoping to get out of this experience? And what did I get out of it? That's kind of what my mind is fixing on at the moment. And so I wanted to do a video as a sort of tribute to the past 4 years. Because a lot of people were like, how can you do that? How can you have multiple sclerosis and then take yourself off to a completely isolated place that is inaccessible and harder work, you know, what, and why on earth would you do that? And I had to do it. This is the thing, I realized that I had to do it. And there were quite a number of considerations in that. So the first was my health. You see, when I became ill, if you have MS, I'm sure it's the same for you, you become sensitive to absolutely everything. Your body registers it much sooner than it would have done when you were healthy. It can't withstand things, you know, heat intolerance, stress intolerance. And then I discovered, I'm not entirely sure how I discovered it, but I basically came across the notion and then started to experiment with it and discovered that I'd actually become sensitive to EMF radiation, so wireless devices. And I was living in the second biggest city in England, surrounded by huge cell phone towers, and I realised that that's not a place I could actually hope to get well in. Take that or leave it. That's why it made sense to me to come to the mountain, because I was just as isolated in Birmingham as I am here. It made no difference. I was alone anyway. This is the thing. I didn't move to be alone up a mountain. I was already alone. And so I thought, what difference does it make If I'm going to be restricted, if I'm in a bodily prison now for the rest of my life, I might as well be in that situation in the most stunning place that I could be. That's the hill I die on. So I came here believing it was where I was going to spend the rest of my days, and that I may well be alone for the rest of my life, and I may well be ill for the rest of my life. But I did have hope that by being in a purer, cleaner environment, that might have a positive impact on my health. In a sunnier environment, getting more vitamin D. And the other thing that made me move in a state of desperation to Spain when I did was the fact that there was the Brexit deadline looming. I knew that if I was to stand a chance of not losing my language skills, you know, you can't just not speak Spanish for years and then expect to remain a professional translator. I knew that I had to keep practicing my Spanish, and that living in the UK, restricted to my living room and not seeing anybody, was not going to help me potentially get back into the workforce if I should become well enough to do so. So I just, everything conspired to be like, go to Spain now, get your residency, you'll be warmer, you'll be in a beautiful environment. And I knew it couldn't be the south of Spain because people with MS have a heat intolerance. So I came to the north of Spain, and it was all very rushed, but I found this beautiful cabin. I was very lucky to have the resources to do this because I had a house in the UK which I was able to sell. And then I landed here, and I really feel like I was shipwrecked here. So that was February 2020. Well, as you may realise, that was literally 2 weeks before the pandemic. So I got here, and it was already a lot to process and a big change to adjust to, because I've always lived in cities, always. As an adult, I've moved abroad before. I've lived in different countries and I've moved around the UK, but I've only ever lived in the city, and I didn't ever see myself living in a place like this. But all of a sudden it was the only place I could be where I could stand a chance. So I got here, it was the pandemic. The whole of Spain shut down overnight. It was very strict here. That was the confinamiento, the lockdown. And then so that was very weird, to arrive in a new country and literally 2 weeks later that happened. I was very lucky. I was on a mountain when everybody else was locked in their flat. The irony wasn't lost on me that I'd gone from my 4-year lockdown in my own living room to suddenly being on a mountain when everybody else was locked down. It was very mind-boggling. And then after the pandemic, it was like a good year where I feel like everybody was readjusting. It was sort of this post-pandemic stressiness. I don't know. I don't know how it was in the rest of the world, but here it took a while for people to start getting more chilled out and friendly again. So it was a slow process of meeting people and trying to integrate. And I would say that that's the one thing I haven't achieved here, is integration and a community. And that's one of the things I've been reflecting on, why didn't that happen? And how can I ensure that happens in Galicia? Because that's never how I've been when I've moved abroad before. I've always integrated. But I think it was partly the timing, partly my circumstances. I mean, I had no spare energy to go out and socialise. But when your disability is invisible and you smoke weed, everything's against you. Like, people aren't going to believe you. And fast forward 4 years, and I have got my health back, I have got my strength back, and I don't consider myself disabled anymore. But because of the pandemic, it was all very odd, and then the judgments grew, and so the light is changing really quickly, so I have to move the camera a bit. So I can't really think about my time here without considering the aspect of community. But I have to remind myself that the one reason I moved out here was for my health. And I don't know, it's been 4 years, and in those 4 years I've grown so much. It's like my whole life has been completely reset. I look at it in a completely different way, and I could never live in a city anymore. You wake up every day surrounded by a dramatic landscape that's really harsh. It's harsh to live on a mountain, and the community has been harsh, and it's been a baptism of fire for a new way of being. I do feel like I've kind of been bullied off the mountain, but I'm okay with that, because this journey hasn't ended with the mountain, and it's because of the carnivore diet and because I've got my health back, that I kind of need to move off the mountain. So it's the mountain's done its job. It took 4 years, but one way or other, it did its job. I met Anthony, I started the carnivore diet, and now I'm moving. And I feel like I'm moving because I don't need the mountain anymore. Because I have my health and my strength back, the mountain's too restrictive. I want to be doing things. I want to be going into town and socializing. I want to be starting a job maybe. I don't want to be restricted anymore. I don't need to be restricted anymore because I have my health back, because the mountain brought me back to my health. So it's not that the mountain has failed. It's not that it's ended prematurely. It's fantastic that I'm moving on to a new life. And just the fact that I can say that I have a new life to move on to is a miracle in itself. There's every chance that I can find a new purpose. So this is, I suppose, yeah, health, freedom, purpose and community are what this has all been about. This is what my reflections on the mountain has led me to conclude that 4 really fundamental aspects of living a good life are health, freedom, community and purpose. And I've got my health back now. My freedom, I have the freedom to live in Spain. I don't know how much freedom we will be allowed to have going forward, because the world's changing so fast, and I don't really trust what's going on in the world. But there we go. I've got the freedom to live in Spain and therefore in nature, which is a wonderful type of freedom. Community and purpose, I think, are what I will now I'd like to maintain my health, maintain my freedom, and move on to thinking about purpose and community, which I feel like, you know, the process of rehabilitating from chronic illness and disability, it's not ever going to be, there's no fast track. And I suppose you are just going to accumulate judgments along the way. You just can't let them affect you. I am deeply grateful to this mountain. I'll be able to look back on it as an old lady, if I make it that far, and be like, I was brave enough to do that. I was brave enough to leave the city in a state of desperation and ill health and live on my own up a mountain in Spain. I did that. No one can take it away from me. You know, I love it when people just take off and do something different that's out of their comfort zone. I would always support that. So yeah, and of course I was lucky to have the resources to do that, and the cognitive resources, because when I discovered that I was affected by wireless devices and reduced my exposure, I got a bit of functioning back, and I used that bit of functioning to save myself, basically. It's not been an easy road, but then, you know, coming back into the world never was going to be easy, because the world is the world, and the world doesn't change just because everything in your life has changed. The world's still the same, and the world's not a nice place often. You know, such incredible, such sublime beauty imprints on your soul. Where we're moving to is also very, very beautiful. So yeah, I think in reflecting on this place, I have to conclude that it's been a total success, and it's something that I would encourage anybody who's struggling the way I was struggling. If you have an MS or a similar condition, and you have a vision, or you're attracted to doing something like this, but you're scared to do it because it seems so risky, I think I would encourage you wholeheartedly to try, because what you're trying is for your health. So this video is just part of my process of letting the mountain go with deep gratitude and love. And whoever ends up living here after me, I'm sure they'll absolutely love it. So it's passing it on, you know, and yeah, I guess that's all I wanted to say, really. I'm just having a quiet moment of reflection. I thought I'd put it to the camera. I just wanted to record this as part of the process of letting go and moving on. So I don't know if it's been of any value, but yeah, thanks for listening, and I hope your 2024 is going really well. Take care. See you next time. Bye.